So, Chris Radford, we're getting to the start of the season now. What would be the first thing you'd say to people who are considering going off-piste in the Alps?
Well, this time of year, it's a good time to get prepared, to make sure that you're ready. So, what do we mean by getting prepared? There's opportunities to get some training. You can do some learning about avalanche awareness and about how to make decisions about where you go in the mountain. You can also check your equipment and get it out the bag and make sure it all works. Quite often in our training sessions, I see people where things like their probe is tangled up, or they're not quite sure how to turn on the transceiver, or they haven't checked how to unpack the shovel. So there's simple things you can do just to make sure you're ready. And the other thing is to think about who you're going to go with. Obviously, you either need to be knowledgeable yourself, or you need to find someone who's going to take you. And so think about who you're going to go with, and are there people you're going to enjoy going with, and so those really three things.
And you mentioned the shovel, probe and transceiver. I mean, I think you've called it the Holy Trinity. Those are things you should never go off-piste without.
Yeah, we are adamant that you should never go the other side of the piste pole. You should never go across between the pistes without your beeper, shovel and probe, because they are an absolute insurance that you will be able to rescue a victim. Without those three things, it takes too long.
And you say it'll be an absolute assurance you can rescue a victim as long as you know how to use them, of course. And that's the point. You need to practice. And obviously we've done a training session today, and there are training sessions before the season starts. So these are things that you should say either do them now or when you're actually away.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously training in the snow is great, but for many people it's like too much of an interruption of the holiday. So we find that the training we do in the UK does prepare people, and if you can find opportunities to get trained here, then you're ready in advance and you can spend your time out there enjoying yourself with the skiing when you get on holiday.
And in terms of the sort of things you should think about when you're making that decision about whether to go on a particular slope off-piste, what are the sort of things that you tell people you have to take into consideration? Because it's not just go with a guide, follow the guide, you know, just because he's a guide or she's a guide and they know what they're doing.
We have 9 points in a checklist, and they come under 3 headings. It's where you're going to go, which slopes you're going to go on, how you're going to go, which is how you ski down or walk up the slope, and how well prepared you are. We just talked about some preparation. Under where you go, there's 3 things that we think you need to think about. There's a slope angle. If it's more than 30 degrees, it might avalanche. Another thing is, have you looked at the avalanche bulletin and the danger rating? Have you read it and do you understand it? Because that will tell you what risks to look out for. And the third thing is to look for any evidence of what we call recent avalanche activity, things that have been happening in the last 24 hours. Those are the top 3 things that we encourage people to assess before they decide whether to enter a slope.
And not to always listen to somebody else. I mean, if you think you shouldn't be somewhere, then you don't go there.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems for us going off-piste is that many times people go on slopes that might avalanche, but nothing happens. And I mean, some people estimate it's like things only happen 1 in 1,000 times. So it's a place where there's not much feedback. You're taking the risk, but nothing happens, and and then you're aware. So you will find yourself, if you're being cautious, not going on slopes, and other people go and nothing happens. You think, why didn't I go there? You may well have made the right decision still.
Chris Radford, thank you very much for talking to Planet Ski.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you. It's a pleasure.